Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bratt, and this week's guest is medical assistant and 2010 Van Buren graduate, Katelyn DeVore. In this episode, Katelyn shares how she became a medical assistant after working for 10 years in another field, how perseverance has been invaluable on her journey to becoming a medical assistant, what she values most about her career, and much more. Whether you are interested in a career as a medical assistant or still exploring your options, I hope that what Katelyn shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another Joust About Careers. And Katelyn, I really appreciate you joining us. And I'd like to know, how does a typical day look for you as a medical assistant?
So typical day, I come in typically around 7:30. When I have patients that day, I get my ducks in a row, get my bearings, look at my patient load. So I work with a cardiologist. And so his typical schedule ranges between 8 and 10. So 8 and 10, we see probably about, depends. Sometimes we see about 3 new patients, and then the rest are follow-ups. So new patients are 30 minutes, and then the follow-ups are typically 15. But I have a really attentive cardiologist. So even if he runs over, he, sees them based on, their needs and what they are asking for. It just depends on their condition and, how they're doing. Sometimes it's, hey, how you doing? Oh, you're good. You need med refills. Hey, see you later. See you in a year.
Right.
Or, there's times that, he goes over the hospital stay and, hey, how are you feeling? What have you. But my typical day will, so I'll bring the patient back, put them in a room. I'll weigh them first. I just do, the typical, hey, how you doing? How's your family? Just a little, personable touch. And then we sit and we check, how are you feeling? So I can kind of get the synopsis before he even goes in. So there's no, oh, I didn't know about that.
Right.
So I kind of give them a heads up, hey, they're complaining about shortness of breath, or hey, their feet are swelling, or, this is their concern. So.
Right. You are the doctor's eyes and ears before he ever even enters the room.
Correct.
And again, making, time is obviously important for anyone,
Yep.
but especially for doctors. And I know people, myself included, we have to wait more than 5 minutes for an appointment. It's like, oh my gosh, what's taking so long? And
Right.
Again, anything you can do to speed that up is useful.
Yeah.
Now, do you work in the hospital, or are you in a freestanding office?
So his office particularly is in the hospital.
Okay.
So it's pretty convenient because so the heart floor is on the second floor, and that's where they do all the outpatient procedures and stuff that, heart casts, cardioversions,
Okay.
Just anything.
Right.
They do it all on the second floor, and then we're actually up on the third floor.
Okay.
Where they're looking to expand. So we just implemented two of the other local cardiologists. So we're growing. So
when you were in high school, did you have any idea that you would be a medical assistant working with a cardiologist someday? What were your plans?
So I originally went to Bowling Green for 1 year. I didn't take it seriously. So I just kind of want to be the testimony for the ones that, you don't need to go to school. I mean, you can have a trade. I didn't go to medical assistant school. That's the one great thing about Blanchard Valley. They train you on the job. Going back, so I worked in the factory life for 10 years. I worked at the cookie factory. I worked at Whirlpool. And believe it or not, I listened to my little brother. He's like, why don't you go work at the hospital? And I was like, no. So my mom's a registered nurse. So I actually got my foot in the door at the hospital. I was actually a housekeeper before I became a medical assistant. Okay. So I got my foot in the door at Blanchard Valley. I was a housekeeper for about 7 months. You have to be in your current position for 6 months in order to transfer out. And I actually interviewed to be a radiology secretary. And by the grace of God, someone believed in me. And unfortunately, we're in a world that's about, who you know and, networking and stuff like that. So I actually interviewed with the radiology secretary, and she is actually my mom's boss. She had asked me and approached me. She's like, do you want to be a medical assistant? Because that particular office was really hurting for medical assistants. And I was like, well, don't you have to go to school for that? And they're like, no, we'll train you. And I was like, okay. So my boss currently used to actually work in the emergency room with my mom when she came back to Findlay. So my boss believed in me. So I went to training, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't do great in training. I thought, computers were my second nature. So charting and, how to talk to patients, and it was not my second language. So it was all stuff I had to learn over time. It's definitely shaped me into a better person.
Right. Interesting. Is the hospital still offering that type of opportunity for medical assistants?
Yeah. So the hospital definitely needs medical assistants.
Okay.
The medical field period needs help for sure.
Right. So that training that you then did through the hospital, was there actual classwork you had to go do? Was it just spending time with other medical assistants? So how did that look?
Kind of both. Okay. So my boss is a registered nurse. So we were doing manual blood pressures. I was learning the medication terminology, how to correctly pronounce a medication, the computer work, everything. I mean, I'm a hands-on type of person. So, it took me a minute for sure.
Right.
But I mean, when they train you, they teach you how to chart, how to schedule an appointment. I mean, it's like a week-long training process. You do the computer one day, and then the next day you're doing the hands-on, and then you're in your physical office, learning that their flow and their feel and how they do things, and just how they all piece it together. Every office does something differently. So, right. It just, like I said, I like my specific job is because it's a specialty. So if a patient calls and complains, hey, I'm nauseated, or I have flu-like symptoms, I can say, okay, you need to call your primary care, because we're the heart office. We don't deal with that. Or right. So that's one of the nice luxuries of working in specialty. Okay. So,
okay. Now, are there other careers like medical assisting at the hospital that, again, kind of fly under the radar? Sounds like you had really never heard of medical assisting prior to that boss of your mom kind of throwing that out there as an option. Mm-hmm. Obviously, now you're well aware of that. Are there other jobs like that or careers like that that maybe don't require a ton of training other than a person just wanting to come in and work and learn?
Absolutely. Um, uh, so, I mean, there's, care coordinators, there's medical assistants. Um, I guess it's just how the verbiage is used on the job listings.
Okay.
Um, I mean, if I was to just apply off the street, I wouldn't know, like, hey, could I do this, or do I need, schooling?
Right.
You really have to, kind of dig into it, and maybe even know somebody that works at the facility too, to
Mm-hmm.
know, hey, what does it take to do this job?
Right.
But I will say that's one great thing about Blanchard Valley. They are very good at training, um, and there's always an opportunity to, grow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
As far as education, is there ever a time where it would be worthwhile for someone to go to a school and get a certification? And again, maybe it's a, I don't know, 2 month certificate or 6 month, or
mhm.
do you know of opportunities like that? And would you say that could be worthwhile? Or do you think it truly is best to just contact a healthcare provider and see if they'll train you?
um, so I guess you could do, both ways. Um, Granted, if I was to go someplace else to get a job, a lot of times they are wanting certified
Right.
medical assistants. So that requires a certification. Um, so I guess it just, as a whole, if you don't know, like, hey, I want to be a cardiology medical assistant, or hey, I want to go to gastroenterology. Um, if you wanted to go into primary care, I think it'd be beneficial to, get that training, because, they're going to cover everything from, injections, how to do a strep test, or how to swab for COVID, or, you know, I'm sure I could learn all those things.
Right.
Um, but maybe you would be more, marketable if you had that certification. But it
Right.
just depends.
Right. Are there opportunities for advancement now that you are there as a medical assistant? Are there steps that you are considering taking to continue advancing, or is this something that, people typically just kind of stay as medical assistants, or what are those options?
So another great perk with Blanchard Valley, they do offer tuition reimbursement. Um, I I'm still like testing the waters, trying to figure out whether I want to go back to school yet.
Okay.
If I was to go back to school, I'd probably be a registered nurse. But I'm still kind of, so I'll be honest. Like, when I first started, I was not confident, um, because I'm like, what did I get myself into? Because I was just, I'm being serious. I was
Right.
in over my head with, you know, medications, people calling in. I didn't know how to, address their problems, just, I was like, what am I doing here? Why did I do this? But it's been the most rewarding job. Um, but I mean, eventually my goal would be to, go back to school.
Okay.
For what yet, I don't know. But I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm doing right now.
Right. Well, it's nice to have options.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
like you said, that experience is going to help you make a good decision when it does come time to say, yes, I'm definitely going back to school. You now have that direction and have that network of people you can lean on to help you
Right.
make that decision, which is always really useful. Are you the only medical assistant in your doctor's, um, I guess, office, or are there multiple medical assistants?
So we primarily, we meaning in the group, we have in our group, we have two cardiologists. We have a nurse practitioner under those two cardiologists.
Uh,
And then we have a vascular surgeon, and then we have a vascular certified nurse practitioner.
Okay.
So vascular, the surgery aspect is more of a smaller patient load than the regular cardiologist. So I'm assigned to one specific cardiologist, and that's like I'm his go-to girl. Like,
right.
So he knows, hey, I need to ask Katelyn about this patient that she put paperwork on my desk for.
Right.
So there's a assigned person, to, granted, we all help each other out, but we have the one designated person for that specific doctor.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been doing this now?
So I started in February. It's crazy that I remember this. I actually started on Valentine's Day in 2022.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're approaching 4 years of doing this. Okay.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you talked about how at the beginning it was definitely a struggle, a lot of questioning and so forth. And, now you feel confident, you feel good, you can interact with the patients and so forth. What would you say are some of the best parts of being a medical assistant, and beyond maybe that steep learning curve at the beginning where it makes it difficult, what are some of those challenges that a person should be aware of before becoming a medical assistant?
So some of the best things, I guess, just I never have been like a like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you kind of person.
Right.
So I've definitely, my self-confidence has definitely built. And then, getting to know people, like, I guess having that satisfaction. I'm not a very boastful, like, look at me type of person. But like when a patient walks out of the room and, looks at the doctor and says, you need to keep this girl. And, I like being very personable with these patients.
Right.
Some of them I, really hold really close to my heart because so I lost my grandparents. All my grandparents are gone now. So like I love that interaction with the older ones specifically. Just listening to them talk about their families and stuff like that. So that really warms my heart and, feeds my soul.
Right.
So that's the most rewarding thing for me. And then, just talking about day-to-day life, I know that people are scared when they come to the doctors, or, they don't know what news they're going to get, or, just being that, first initial person they lay eyes on, and, you just ask about their day, or, hey, are you ready for Christmas? Or, hey, how's your sons and how are your grandkids, and just having that, personable touch with them. That's what, makes me feel good every single day.
Right. What about those challenges?
Well, I won't lie. Like, you have to be patient because I try to be as patient as I can be with some, because there's some that I won't lie, they really do test my patience. And I'm like, they'll call and they'll say, well, I took 5 of these pills, but I know the bottle only said take 2 of these. And you're just like, you want to pull your hair out and scream. Right. Like, why did you do that? But you can't control what other people do. And there's, the repeat offenders that call all the time, and you're just like, oh my God, can you not like get it together? Like, how many times do we have to go through this? So I have to remind myself to be patient. Sometimes I just need to, walk away from my computer because, it gets kind of overwhelming at times, or, hey, I need to take a walk down the hall just to kind of, collect my thoughts and then come back and, regroup.
Right.
which is nice with my particular cardiologist's schedule. So he has a break in between like his 8 to 10 patients. And then we start up after lunch. So during that 3-hour window, he's, rounding in the hospital, doing procedures, catching up on, stuff. So that's like my window too, to, catch up on what, happened in the morning, make phone calls, just stuff I can't do during, our clinic hours when we're actually physically seeing patients, because, if he's got 10 follow-ups and those are all 15 minutes, I gotta keep moving, gotta keep plucking them out. So.
Well, I think, I think a lot of times we don't think about how service-oriented a position in healthcare is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like people, and that's obvious.
Absolutely.
That you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, when working with a bunch of people, unfortunately, it's not a perfect world, and we aren't perfect people, and there are things to deal with on a daily basis. So I think that patience makes a lot of sense. That that's something that a person would have to have if they wanted to be in a field like this. Are there any other characteristics in addition to patience that a person going into this field as a medical assistant might want to have?
Definitely. So Blanchard Valley has like a bunch of pillars of like what they stand for, and one in particular, humor. I like to have a sense of humor. And empathy is another one, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what everyone comes from, a different walk of life. You don't know what you're going to come across. And you come across all different types of people. So, where I'm not trying to scare anybody, or we've seen people with history of drug use, or we've seen patients that come from the jail, or people that have had a history of abuse, or I'm not trying to touch on all the negative ones, but I mean, patients come, like I said, come from all different walks of life. So you can't be judgmental. You have to be receptive and open-minded.
You're there to serve people, all
Correct.
people, regardless of anything.
Body type, race, sex.
Right.
I mean, everything. Yep.
Yep. You are there to serve people.
Yep.
So as we wrap up and you think about, you talked about your experiences working in a factory, your experience now with medical assisting. What do you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were in high school?
Well, number one, I wish I would have took college seriously, because it's harder to go back to school when, as you get older, because then you're starting to get more financial obligations, like car payment, house bills, just kids, stuff like that.
Right.
So it's a little bit more difficult, and I got to work a little harder just to make a little extra money, So number one, I wish I would have, stayed in college. I would have done everything right off the rip. But, it was a blessing in disguise too, because it made me realize, like, not that I'm saying that factories, I'm better than the factory. Cause my dad worked in a factory from 18 on till retirement. So, and I mean, it provided for, our family and stuff like that. And so I'm not going to knock somebody, but I wanted something fulfilling. And I mean, it was rewarding when I worked in housekeeping, because I was able to interact with patients that were, in the hospital sick, and, just, being that smile or taking care of something that, they needed. I love that fulfillment. And I think it's very rewarding to, care for people in all different stages of life.
Right.
So,
Well, Katelyn, I really appreciate everything you've shared, and I will admit I assumed that, or I didn't assume that you would be able to be trained right at the hospital for all of this. So I
See,
think
and I didn't know that either. So,
right,
I mean,
right,
unfortunately, we're in a world it's all about who you know. So,
right.
I mean, someone, like I said, my boss, and then my mom's boss believed in me. So, and I had a little rough start, and I tripped and, I fell. So,
Yep.
but I'm
Life's
not
all
built.
about,
They
life's
brag
all about,
about me. So
right.
I'm
Life's
built a
all
little.
about, it's all about getting back up again.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. And you've done that, and that is great. So I hope that maybe some students will continue to ask about medical assisting and
Yep.
and hopefully maybe find that as a career option for themselves. So thank you very much, Katelyn. Take care and good luck on your career journey.
Thank you.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.